Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Tissue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Duke #1. This is a new book from Image Skybound, another entry into the Energon universe. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This is written by Joshua Williamson with art by Tom Riley, Jordi Belair on colors, Rose Wooten on letters, and a plethora of variant covers that we'll see some of them at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Let me tell you here, I am very excited about this new entry into the Energon universe. If you have been watching the channel and keeping up, you know that we are all in on the Transformers by Daniel Warren Johnson, and this book is no different. We begin with a little bit of background on Duke and how it connects to the Transformers, but from there, it really spins out into its own thing. So, let me read the synopsis for everyone that doesn't know what's going on with this book. I will tell you there'll probably be spoilers for the Transformers book on here, so keep that in mind. Uh, Codename G.I. Joe starts here. Conrad Hauser has made first contact with an alien being and lived to tell the tale, but no one, not even Colonel Hawk, believes the story of the jet fighter converting into a colossal alien robot that nearly killed the man we know as Duke. Now, one of the U.S. Army's most decorated soldiers is on the hunt for answers, drawn into a conflict that no amount of training could ever prepare him for. A war that only a real American hero has a chance of surviving. Superstar writer Joshua Williamson and artist Tom Riley kick off the first of four action packed miniseries that will introduce the best and worst humanity has to offer in the Energon universe. So, Joshua Williamson will also be doing the Cobra Commander series. So it feels like we're gonna have all those little mini series kind of build out the world, and then maybe we'll get an actual GI Joe ongoing. That's still to be determined. But I am very excited because I really enjoyed this issue. I've never been one to really go out and read GI Joe. Matter of fact, I'm not even very familiar with the character outside of the films from the early aughts, which were probably not the best representation of the character. There's a really cool GI Joe versus Transformers book that IW put out a few years ago, actually quite a while back, probably now. But I am very excited about the team. I like all the stuff that Joshua Williamson has been doing over at DC. I'm a big fan of Tom Riley's art, specifically his latest stuff over with the Ant-Man. And yeah, just these two things combined with the Energon universe that has been set up in Void Rivals and Transformers, like it all leads me to believe that the people that are putting all this together really know what they're doing. You can tell that they are fans of the book, fans of these characters, fans of these mythologies that they want to build out this gigantic universe over at Skybound. Um, so let's talk a little bit about this story. The book has a lot of interesting things. It very efficiently tells you a few things: who is Duke, why he is in trouble, what he has experienced, which is the connection to the Transformers book, and does all this very efficiently. Joshua Williamson is really good at like giving you a lot of lore while still having it the artist just like really making things look cool. There's a little bit of narration, but Tom Riley just manages to, even if you didn't know what was being said, you could still kind of tell what type of person Duke is and what is he out there for. So let's take a look at some preview art. As you can see here, we get a quick few pages of how Duke is a man of action. Now, I didn't, like I said, I didn't know much about the mythology, so I didn't really know. Like, Duke was just kind of his code name. You get to see here a little bit of his time during training, how he's an exemplary soldier, but also he's also just a good person, and of course a man of action. I really love this, and these titles will come back, very reminiscent of the toys, kind of like they each had their own little subheader. Beautiful art, just a big explosion, and just a very dynamic pose. Tom Riley knows exactly what to do here to show you how badass Duke is. But then all that quickly changes as he's being interrogated by Colonel Hawk about his encounter with the Transformers, specifically Starscream, who was the one that took down his plane and he had to evacuate. Right, we saw that in an issue of Transformers. So what is a man to do now? So I really love here the flashback. I love how the coloring really shows you that this is the book about Duke and GI Joe, not so much about the Transformers. So even though the Transformers, specifically Starscream in this shot, are part of the mythology and part of the story, they're not the focus of this series, right? That's why Duke is the one in color, while Starscream is kind of like overshadowed. So it's still very menacing, uh, but remains a threat that only Duke really believes in at this time. Uh, and he, I like that Joshua Williamson takes Duke from like the poster boy for the U.S. Army into more of a rogue agent as he tries to clear his name and bring all these things to light. Of course, he's going to run into some familiar dangers, specifically if you're familiar with the mythology of the G.I. Joe franchise. But this book is very accessible to readers, new and old. I think it rewards the old readers, just like the Transformers did, with little details and little things that you would probably be familiar with, but it also allows new readers to just kind of come in fresh into this mythology. So really cool stuff. Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for the Schlub #5. This is a new book from ImageComics and KLC Press. Let's take a look at the creative team here. We have a story by Ryan Stegman and Kenny Porter, with art by Terrell Cannon, colors by Mike Spicer, letters and design by John J. Hill. So yeah, our body swap superhero romp continues here. Things are getting serious. Sirius and Roger, can they find the strength to work together? And what about Worm? We get some really interesting revelations. This issue actually has probably the most revelations about like the backstory of Worm and Sirius and their relationship and why they really are kind of at odds of really any that we've seen before. So in this one, Roger and Sirius are in deep trouble. Worm has collected all the power he needs to steal his body back, and he's ready to destroy the world to get it. Can Roger find the strength he needs to save the day, or will someone else pay the ultimate price? So yeah, this book, last issue was very heavily focused on both Roger and Sirius, really dealing with all their family issues. But then in this one, we really have them coming face to face with the consequences of what Sirius and his father and pretty much all that they have to pay the piper for everything that's been going on there, and that shows up in the form of this supervillain that we find out just wants his body back. It's incredible stuff. Tyrell Cannon just doing some of the more bombastic art. Like, just if you want some crazy superhero shenanigans, this is the book. It's big, it's loud, it's full of some amazing sound effects. And we finally get to see Roger and Sirius kind of work together, trying to put everything, in the rear view. But of course, things don't work out exactly as they want them to. So let's pull up some of the preview art here. Like I mentioned, Tyler Cannon and Mike Spicer just knocking it out of the park. I love the facial expressions. I love the big superhero moments. And then just seeing Roger, how, or I guess Sirius in the body of Roger, kind of not being able to help as he normally would, while Roger not fully taking advantage of the power that Sirius has because he lets his emotions kind of get the best of him. And then things don't really work out for them. So yeah, Worm is such a threatening villain, but he's also kind of fun. He's got a really fun design. He's really just you kind of feel like there's a lot more to him, especially as you kind of read this issue and you figure out everything that's been done to him. I don't know that it excuses anything, but it definitely makes you feel like there's way more here than just than and more than meets the eye, I guess. But yeah, really fun stuff. Amazing covers by Tyrell and Ryan Stegman as well. Check those out at the end of the video. Hello, everyone. Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Universal Monsters Dracula #3. This is a new book from Image Skybound that continues this story. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by James Tynion IV with art by Martin Simmons and letters by Russ Wooten. So, this is the book that follows Dracula coming into this town, and of course, weird things start to happen. We have Renfield, who is being analyzed by the doctor in the town. And then, like I mentioned, mysterious things. People start getting hurt. People start to disappear. And there's a mysterious figure that has infiltrated the town, and nobody knows who they are. And of course, we know who they are, and we're following that story along. So, in this specific issue, Dr. John Seward struggles against the mounting evidence that his Lucy is under the thrall of a blood-sucking supernatural being. And how do you even prove any of that stuff? Martin Simmons and James Tynion have been able to capture the essence of this Universal Monster story without even having Dracula be at the forefront. I don't think we've ever, I don't, although we see Dracula a lot in the book, we don't even have, he's not even the main character, I would say, in his own story, right? We see a lot of things from the perspective of the doctor. We see a lot of things from the perspective of Mina. We see a lot of things from Renfield's perspective. And they all kind of talk about this figure. They talk about the master. They talk about this thrall, this power that is overcome the town, and just the way that Tynion is unfolding this story with Martin Simmons' beautiful art, which sometimes feels like you're watching the black and white movie, sometimes feels like you're trapped in a nightmare. It is fantastic. I love the color palette. Is very opaque, very obscure, unless Dracula has come into the picture, whether it's one of his deeds, whether it's himself. So let's take a look at some of those details that I'm talking about now in the preview art. As I mentioned here, we are in the funeral of Lucy from the last issue. And as we talk, we follow Mina around, who's really trying to figure out the mystery and who is this mysterious figure that seems to be all around the town. And as you can see, every time Dracula is on a pane, there's a little bit more light. There's of course some red tint. There's something extra bringing it into the picture. And then as we get into it, things get a little bit more gruesome. And as I was reading this, I realized that the reason that this page is so disturbing, that we have a body at the table that's being operated on. But the reason that it's so disturbing is not really all the blood around, which that's definitely a part of it. But the reason it's so disturbing to me, it's the lack of detail in the audience, in the body, the people that are working. Like the humanity has left this page, and that I feel like it's an incredible achievement by the team. And then of course we see here the aftermath, and kind of how we return to the black and white world, the sepia tone, that it's being washed all throughout because the effects of Dracula's work are kind of wearing off. So I don't know. There's a lot of pages here that feel like they came straight out of a nightmare. I don't know. I would love to see more of the script, more of the like some of the layouts, just to see like how the creative team is approaching putting this book together, because it is just a fantastic achievement in my opinion. So I'm very excited. This is one of the just Skybound is really doing some amazing stuff here with a lot of the franchises that they picked up, and I really hope that this means that we'll eventually get more Universal Monsters come into the picture, and maybe in some of these series with some of these amazing creative teams. So very cool stuff. Really enjoyed this. Now, if you have read this, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe. We have some variant covers at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.